Hey everyone, welcome to The Zest, the official podcast of Orange Coast Magazine. I'm Chelsea Ranieri, and today we're talking about creativity, collecting, and breaking down the barriers of the art world. Our guests are two women who are helping redefine what it means to discover and own original art, championing emerging artists from around the globe, making collecting more accessible, and leading one of the most influential online art platforms in the world. Please welcome CEO Sarah Meller and Director of Sales and Curation of Saatchi Art Group, Erin Remington. Well, Erin, okay, so you grew up in Costa Mesa, is that right?
I did. Well, I grew up in Tustin, but I went to high school in Costa Mesa, but Orange County, born and raised, family still there. Love it. It's an amazing place.
Amazing. I lived in Costa Mesa for a few years and I miss it so much. But Sarah, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and my family moved us out to Sedona, Arizona after I was in middle school. So I grew up there. I mean, I don't know if you've been, gorgeous landscape, really small town, but lots of creative energy, good energy there. So nice place.
It's on my list. I have a couple friends that went and my parents went and they were just like, you would love it. It's such a cool energy.
It's hard not to love. Great food, great hiking, beautiful weather. It's really nice.
Oh, so cool. Well, what were you guys like as kids and when were you first drawn to like art and creativity?
Yeah, we were talking about this before. I definitely was always drawn to creativity. Art, was a very creative kid. I didn't know I would do anything with art later in my life. My grandma was an artist, so was definitely really inspired by her. Went to museums growing up as a kid. So have always had a real affinity towards art and creativity.
I was not that creative of a child. I was always jealous of the people that could paint and draw really well. I did dance through college. So that's
creative.
I did modern dance. So that form of expression, I have an affinity for, but
I'm not a good artist, but I would say I loved it.
Yeah, same. That's how I am too. I like to doodle in my journal and that's like as far as I go with the art aspect of it, but I do love, yeah. Okay. Well, Sarah, I read that you loved, like in an AP history class, helped you fall in love with art. And then Erin, I read that you were redecorating your bedroom inspired by the 2000s show Trading Spaces, which I totally did as well. I totally remember doing that. But do you remember the moment when art started feeling like a calling for you guys?
I mean, for me, it really was. I was, I can't remember if I was in 11th or 12th grade. I think it was 11th. I took an AP art history class, literally didn't know the term art history. I had no idea that this was a course of study. Yeah. And I went to a really small international school and we had this course and it was like 8 people. And I just was like, this is the most amazing way to think about history and tell a story. It's like, you're not memorizing battles or dates. You're looking at the cultural production and seeing what people valued, what worried them, what they thought was beautiful. And I just thought it's just the coolest thing I could ever think of. So from then on, I was
so cool. And also the fact that there's only 8 kids in that class.
Yes. It was a really small school in Sedona.
That's so cool. Oh, wow. So cool.
Yeah.
How about you, Erin?
I actually also took an AP art history class, which is funny that we have that crossover. Yeah. That was sort of my introduction to studying art in that same way too. I always loved history. I loved reading. So it was sort of like a visual journal of history. So it really clicked for me. And I also have always loved design. I did always redecorate. I was always moving furniture in my room as a kid. My mom would be like, Erin, you need to stop rejigging the room. So I definitely have always had an eye for design, and art sort of felt like a natural manifestation of that.
Yeah. So I'm so jealous you guys had AP art history classes. Like we did not have that at my high school. And I feel like I would be able to understand history better through that.
Yeah.
lens,
I mean, I was just trying to get college credits at the time. It really wasn't anything that I was like, oh, I need to do this. This is going to guide me into the rest of my life. And it sort of did though, in some way.
Yeah. That's so cool. Well, you both worked in various roles in the art world before stepping into your current position. So what early job taught you the most about how the art world really works?
Do you want to start?
Yeah. So I went a couple different routes with art. I interned at Laguna Art Museum. So I was working in the marketing department there. And then I also taught art in the Irvine School District when I was in grad school. So I was doing an art enrichment program. So very much so hands in all the Orange County neighborhoods. And I was just trying to figure out, do I want the institutional route? Do I want to be, teaching? And then I was intern at a gallery up here in LA. So I think all of those different touch points really taught me kind of looking at art in a different way. Whether it was teaching kids, you have to really learn how to explain super basic, art principles or talking about the artist. And people feel really intimidated by art, and almost not that you need to talk to adults like kids, but just really keeping it super basic, talking about colors, talking about art movements, everything just needs to be, just talking about it in layman's terms. So that job really taught me that. And I think through those different jobs, I just kind of got a different perspective of how people interact with art, and people come from like different backgrounds with it. So I think it just kind of opened up my eyes, different ways that you can interact with it with different people.
Totally. It's interesting. I had a recording right before this and we were talking about art and kids specifically with art. And I was saying that I read something in a book that I was reading, but it was saying like a sign of intelligence is being able to explain like a really complex topic in simple form. That seems like a really fun job to be able to teach kids about art.
Yeah, it was super rewarding. Hard. Maybe the hardest job I've ever had, honestly.
I also was in the institutional art world prior to working at Saatchi for about a decade in New York City. And the institutional art world is really interesting. I feel like there's two sides to it. It really attracts people that work at art museums are super passionate and super mission driven because they
100%
inherently believe that art is something that everyone should have access to and learn about and have knowledge about. But of course, there's a connection between museums and kind of the blue chip art market. And so with that, there's politics, there's power differentials, there's all those things that happen in a high value market like the art market. And so it's a really kind of two-sided experience. And my first role was in museum education and actually interpretation, which is like the didactics. So like the wall labels and the audio guide, and really thinking about how do people connect with the art and the artist? Like that's the foundational question. And I think that still is my foundational question. Even in my role now as CEO at Saatchi Art Group, it's like, why should I care? What do the artists mean? How is this something that I can understand or relate to? Like those are just the core questions that I think we're all still grappling with.
Yeah, that's so, I love thinking about it that way. That's so interesting. Okay. Well, Erin, you've worked everywhere from museums to galleries to editing for an art critic, which sounds so cool. How did being behind the scenes shape your eye and your confidence as a curator?
Yeah, again, it sort of gave me different perspectives on how to engage with art. When I worked with the art critic, that was really great to kind of have a more objective perspective, I would say, like looking at it from, I was talking about all the new gallery shows that were happening in the city or different shows at museums. And it really allowed me to, kind of come out of that like art history or more historical perspective and get more into the contemporary art world, which is what we're interacting with now. We're working with emerging artists that are selling on the primary market. So really understanding the trends that are happening, who are the big artists, and really just being engaged in the kind of the art world at large. That was like really exciting for me and something that I hadn't done up to that point. It was more sort of this like, how does this fit into like a historical perspective or teaching narrative? And I really love the contemporary art market and seeing what artists are creating. It's such a reflection of what's happening in culture and society. And there's so many like different avenues that you can kind of find what works for you.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned trends. Are there any big trends that you like off the top of your head, like a couple of trends that you see right now?
Yeah. I mean, I think people are always drawn to abstract art. Abstract art is just like an amazing, art movement style. It's very modern and contemporary. It can fit into so many different spaces. I'm personally a fan of figurative art. People feel passionate one way or another about having like faces in their
just talking about this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she recently purchased a painting that has, figures in it.
And the first week that I was living with it, I had this sense of like other people being in the room with me. And I was like, can I get used to this? But a good figurative piece, it's just so commanding and it's such a statement. I feel like it really has just so much personality in a way that sometimes an abstract just kind of doesn't hit.
Yeah, which is, they kind of have their pros and cons in that way. But other art styles, I mean, gosh, I think there really is like mid-century modern is definitely a style that people continue to go back to over and over again. And I think Impressionism is we see a lot of kind of modern takes on that. People love landscapes, that painterly style that does really, really well for a lot of our buyers. I think it's just people like a pretty a pretty landscape like this. And so those are probably, just evergreen, always going to be popular.
I love that. Well, Sarah, you worked your way up to assistant director of marketing at the Whitney before moving into Saatchi Art. So what made you take that leap?
My husband and I moved out to LA for many reasons, among them the weather. But I think I thought, coming out here that I would probably stick around in art museums. I think that was like what I thought was just what I should do. And then I heard about Saatchi Art and kind of the mission of the company. And it's such a unique business. And I thought, wow, like I can continue broadening access to art. I can continue reaching more people with the power and value of art. I can hone a creative and commercial skill set. And I can also just move faster. I think one of the things when you work at an institution is like, it's kind of like moving an oil tanker when you want to make change. And that makes sense.
A lot of red tape.
Yeah. They have legacies, they have history. So like, it makes sense that they have to be more thoughtful in that way. But, in many ways, Saatchi started as a tech company. And so there was a bit of a scrappier mentality and a lack of preciousness that really enables you to kind of just try things and test things and make pivots. And I felt like that was very exciting then. And I still find that really exciting.
Yeah. So I talked a bit about what Saatchi Art is in the intro that I pre-recorded, but can you guys talk a bit about, for listeners who might not be familiar with the company?
Yeah. Do you want to take it?
Yeah. So Saatchi Art is the world's largest online art gallery. It's this, amazing place that you can find a plethora of options, anything you have in mind in terms of art, whether it's a painting, a sculpture, a photograph, and it's all from living, breathing, working artists that are today. And it's completely global. So you can buy an artwork from India, from Japan, from Africa, and it comes directly to your doorstep. It's really from artist studio to your home. So it's this really interesting, amazing space to just find, if you are a hobbyist and you love cars, there's a million car artworks. If you just want something beautiful in your kitchen, we have, so many options there, but it's this, very cutting edge, interesting space that you can find artwork to fill your home. We have these different tools to kind of render it into your space, to kind of imagine what that might look like. I head up our sales.
That's cool.
Yeah. In a world of like AI and just kind of figuring out how to redecorate and imagine. I think that's one of the hardest barriers of buying art online, is not being able to see it in person. But I work with our art advisory team, and we are really art and design experts. So it's completely free of charge. Anyone can work with myself or someone on my team, and we can kind of guide you into, helping answer those questions and source artwork for you. Which is, I think, a really unique thing.
Nice.
Yeah. Or make something special. I mean, often Erin's team facilitates commissions. So you might love another work an artist had, it's already sold, or you might want to do something special for, I don't know, an
anniversary.
Right. And you can have an artist actually kind of work with you to make that a reality.
That's so cool. I love the AI aspect of it too, because like before I would just like have my phone and like the artwork on my phone and have like one eye open and like trying to be like looking like, how is this going to look in the room? So that helps a lot.
Yeah. It takes out so much of the guesswork. That's always a worry when you're buying something like this.
Totally. Well, when you guys both first joined Saatchi Art, what did each of you envision your paths at the company?
When I joined to lead marketing, and it was a really natural extension of what I had done in the museum world. I believed in Saatchi Art's mission, and I really wanted to grow awareness for it and make Saatchi Art a household name, and make this idea of like owning real art is something like everyone can kind of do. I think I didn't realize then how foundational marketing would be, even for my role now as CEO. When you're in marketing, the number one thing you're thinking about is like, who is our audience? What are their barriers? What are their needs? What messages resonate with them? And I think these are questions that I think about every single day in my current role. And even joining as a marketer, it's something where you work across the entire organization. Like you can't be a marketer and be siloed. You can't kind of do your own thing. It's highly collaborative. And so I think it's a really nice training ground for general management and leading the company in that way.
Totally. How about you, Erin?
Yeah, I didn't know what the future of Saatchi for me would be like, but similarly, I joined and I was more on our operations logistics side. So I was really in the weeds, the day-to-day of order fulfillment. So through that experience, I learned, gained personal relationships with all of our artists, top artists, and really learned what buyers needed, what was, a little scary for them or what they didn't know. And that really has kind of helped me be successful to sort of, lead from the beginning process of guiding people into purchasing artwork. So it's been an amazing journey, just be able to, I always say from 8 years ago when I started at Saatchi Art, be at parties and tell people I'm work for an online art gallery. People have been so mind blown over the years, like, wow, you can buy art online. And just the overall consumer shift of COVID really changed that from when I first started till now, that it still is wild that you can buy art online. But 8 years ago, when I first started, it felt like I was really working in a future oriented industry for art, which was really, really exciting. And it still is exciting.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that you get to have like personal relationships with the artists too. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Saatchi Art was built on the idea that original art isn't just for the wealthy, as you guys mentioned. So why is breaking that perception so important to you personally?
We were talking about this earlier about kind of art being something maybe as kids that like we didn't see much of. I mean, sure, you go to a museum, maybe it's something you think of art as something behind like a stanchion on a white wall. Or we were saying, like our grandparents had art in their house, but it was like maybe neoclassical, like art was old. Art was something old. Yeah. It was something stuffy or old. And it wasn't necessarily something that like a human that was living now was making. And so I think like we're both just so passionate about that idea of art should be more attainable, real art that's made by a person, that's tactile, not mass produced kind of wall art that you might get from, a big box store or a chain. You can really own something that has that value and that aura of a piece that someone's, blood, sweat, and tears went into. And that's just such a beautiful thing to make available for really the masses.
Yeah, we almost see ourselves as like mission driven first in some ways, because we're supporting living artists and giving them a platform to sell their art. It's a really tough industry to get into. It's traditionally been, you have to be repped by a gallery and you have to, be well connected. And it's really changed a lot, being able to be somewhat self-represented and selling online. And so being able to support, like I mentioned, many artists around the globe. It's, if you live in a country where there's not a lot of galleries or not a lot of big creative communities, still being able to share and sell your work is like really powerful for a lot of these artists.
Yeah. And I would imagine for you, it must feel so nice, like getting to like tell someone that you have like this relationship with now, being like, you sold a piece, like, and they love it so much. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, what's amazing is like the art in your home, like it becomes part of your story. There's just nothing else in your house that's like that. And so I always think it's a cool thing to look at this artwork and say, okay, this artist in India made this work and it's now in my home and it's something that my kids and I look at every day. And I don't know, it's a really beautiful kind of human connection. And we need more of that these days.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Well, Erin, as someone who works directly with collectors and artists, what do people most often feel intimidated by when they're buying original art for the first time?
Yeah, art is so intimidating. And I hear this day in and day out, every single day. People feel like they have to know something to know if it's a good artwork or not. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that feeling. Sometimes I feel that way too. I can go to these different art things and be like, I don't know. And I have degrees and I spend my life in it. So I think it's just taking down the this like implicit bias that art is, for the elite, for the super like knowledgeable person, that only they will have knowledge of what's good and what's bad. So I always start there, just kind of trying to get the barriers down and really just make it more approachable and be like, you're allowed to have an opinion. You're allowed to like something and not like something. And I don't have to like it. And not everyone has to enjoy it. And we really preach that you should buy what you love, and investing in art and those things can be secondary. Yes, some artwork can blow up and maybe become worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, but really we're here to just connect and get people to purchase what they love and feel passionate about that.
Have you seen that happen where someone buys something and then years later it becomes worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, or not so much?
We definitely have some success stories for sure. Artists that go on to be repped by larger galleries or, it's a great breeding ground for new young artists to kind of get their feet wet in selling art. And you never know, you could definitely find a diamond in a rough. You have a good piece that went that have gone out.
Yeah. It's added value. At the end of the day, it's like buy what you love. You can't imagine parting with it, but it is very cool to know, especially like if your taste is validated in that way. That feels
totally good. That would be so cool. I would tell every single person that came to my house that. Well, Sarah, as CEO, how do you balance growing a global marketplace? So it has 1.4 million artworks, 94,000 artists in over 110 countries, while still keeping the experience personal and human.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, even as CEO, every week I see every artist payment that goes out. I scan orders all day. I am in some cases directly in touch with buyers. Our business is so high touch because of what we do. We are sending very delicate, often large, one of a kind artworks very far in planes, trains, boats, all the ways. So I think every order is super personal to us. And again, it's about, we help people find their very first work of art. We help artists make their first big sales. And in some ways, these are life-changing events for these artists. And we also, have collectors that they may have been searching for months, or, they might be working on an anniversary gift for their spouse that like finally arrives and they're just so thrilled. So it's all important to us. And I think Erin's team, they really embody this. Like they're basically at every touch point and they're speaking to every single buyer and every single artist. So, I think we could automate more of what we do, but we don't because that personal connection is so important. So cool.
Yeah, I love that personal connection aspect. I wanted to ask Erin, so have there been any examples that you can share of really cool custom pieces that you've helped create?
Yeah, we have. Oh, I think that's one of our best stories is all the different commissions that we make for anniversaries or personal gifts. One that always sticks with me that I helped facilitate a couple years ago. The buyer was wanting this large triptych painting, which is basically like a 3-panel painting for her. Her entryway. And it was this large landscape that she was wanting. And she really loved this one artist. His name is, I'm going to butcher it. He's Ukrainian. His name is Vasil Khalidi. We worked on it for months. We had multiple iterations. I had calls with her and the artist, and we all got really close through the process. And the artwork delivered. She was super happy with it. It was beautiful. It was like the most pivotal part in her home. Her family loved it. And a few months later, the war broke out in Ukraine. And it was the buyer immediately, collector reached out to me and was like, oh, I want to make sure he's okay. And, I was in touch with the artist already, making sure that him and his family was safe. And it was just this moment that I realized like, we're really bringing parts of the world together. It's more than just art. And it really created this personal relationship through the entire process. And now they're friends and they stay in touch. And she, she's just like, I'm so grateful that she thinks of him every time she walks into her home because it's this kind of pivotal part of her home. And it really created this, the artist, he was able to be supported and create this artwork. And it really lasted this like lasting relationship that was meaningful for me because you don't always get that full circle where everyone gets to sort of connect and find each other through the process. And and his work is beautiful. I have one in my home as well. So,
wow. Now I want to look at his artwork. That's so cool. Okay. Well, what lessons have you guys learned about leadership that you wish that you had known earlier?
I think so much of leadership is about just driving urgency, or it's the opposite. It's slowing people down and saying like, let's actually like stop and maybe this doesn't actually matter. So I think it's a lot of that. I think earlier in my career, I would have thought leadership was about having all the answers, but it's really about asking the questions, asking the right questions. I also think like one of the harder parts of leadership is just making decisions when you don't have perfect information. And I think, working at Saatchi Art, like we are first movers in this space. People have not been selling art online for decades and years and years and years. So we're building the plane while we fly it. We're figuring things out. And you have to get comfortable with not having all the information and being uncertain, but still being really decisive.
Oh yeah, that's hard. I'm like thinking about my wedding and I'm like, that was not me.
Yeah.
It's hard. That's really challenging to do, but good lesson to learn. Well, Erin, you believe that art can change how we see the world. Is there a piece or artist that you've encountered through Saatchi that's really shifted your perspective? I kind of think that what you had said earlier.
That was my, I'm trying to think if I hadn't, that was my story that I had for that. I'm trying to think if there's another one. We get to work with so many amazing artists. One initiative that we do that I'm really passionate about is every year we drop what we call the Rising Stars, where we, my curation team, we go and find recent grads. So people that are completely new to the scene, just recently graduated, and they're creating, really kind of interesting, I consider maybe a little bit more avant-garde work. And why I find it interesting is it's such a reflection normally of like what is happening in culture. I think of our Rising Stars that we had around COVID time. It was so much portrait and figurative work. And I think it was a reflection of needing humanity, needing to feel connected to people because we were so isolated. And then I would say in the last couple of years, there's been this like style that I've seen in art where it's like this Renaissance term sfumato, where it's kind of this haziness where they will do like a realist painting and then they'll make it a little hazy or a little bit out of focus.
On TikTok.
Oh, it's beautiful. And I think that's also a reflection of, the times are a little uncertain right now, that there's things that we don't always know what's going to come. It's been a little rocky, I guess, you could say, in the larger context of the world. And art is always reflecting what's happening. Like it's always a mirror of what's happening culturally and societally. So I think I love to see that. I love to see kind of where it's almost like a mirror of like what's happening in the larger context of the world, and art is such a good snapshot into that. And so that's one of
full circle to art history. Yeah,
I was gonna say, full circle with your history class, and then getting to see that happen in real life now. That's so, I love that. Well, for listeners who are curious about collecting but don't know where to start, what's the best piece of advice that you would give to them?
Erin is the pro here, so I think she'll give you some real practical advice. The only thing I have to give is buy what you love. And we say it on repeat at Saatchi Art. If something catches your eye and you're still thinking about it, you should get it. I think there's that impulsive nature to like, you might not know what you like until you see it. And if you see it, like, go for it. You don't need expert judgment, although we have experts to help you. But you can trust your instincts. And, if you love it, that's really all that matters.
Totally.
Yeah. And I would just start with something super basic, like find one wall in your home that you're really wanting to fill. Like some people will say, I need art for my entire house. And that just gets really overwhelming. It's like making 12 decisions at one time. So start in a communal space, like a kitchen or a living room, somewhere where it's going to add a lot of value to your everyday life. And if you have no idea what kind of art you might like, this is a super practical tip. I say, go into your closet and like, look at your clothes. Are you drawn to patterns? Do you like certain colors? Are you texture person? Do you like minimalism? It's usually reflective in the type of art that you like. If you're like a capsule wardrobe girl, you're probably going to like minimalism. If you are maximalist and like prints, you're probably going to want a loud painting. So just kind of like look at your own patterns and what you are normally drawn to, and then just kind of start your search that way. And you intuitively know what you like, and just trust your gut there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's such great advice. I'm literally going to do that right after this interview. That's such a cool way to look at it. Well, is there anything that you guys want to shout out for listeners to keep an eye out for in 2026? This will come out in late spring.
I mean, we have not mentioned that we are the presenter of a global art fair. So if you prefer not to shop online and you like to meander and browse, we have the largest artist-led art fair. It's called the Other Art Fair in the US and UK. And later this spring, we'll have events in both Chicago and Dallas. But we'll also be back in the greater LA area at Santa Monica's iconic Barker Hangar in September. So I know it's a bit of a drive for our OC audience.
And we have a lot of Orange County artists that exhibit there. So because there's so many great artists. It's honestly
the best place to just kind of like meet artists, talk to them, hear from them, see what you like, see what you don't. And the best part of it is all of them are also on Saatchi Art. So you can leave the fair and you can kind of keep exploring that way. So I would love to see some folks come up in Santa Monica this fall.
Yeah. I would love to go. I also like the idea that there's not like that pressure to buy it in the moment. You can go home and look at it online.
And you can also just enjoy yourself. We have, immersive installations. We have drinks. I mean, it's really fun. It's a fun place.
Yeah.
Sounds so fun. Well, thank you guys so much for doing this. I have 3 final questions for you that we call the Thoughtful 3. So first, when you were starting out, what did you think success in the art world would look like? And how does it compare to reality now?
Go ahead.
Well, I feel like when I started out in the art world, I thought you have museums and you have high-end blue chip galleries. And I thought those were the only paths. And so I love that I'm in this different space in between where we're so mission driven, we're helping artists, but we're also part of the commercial market, and you get a little bit of everything. You're supporting artists and you're broadening art's reach.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that caps it up.
That's so great when you said like the museums and the blue chip art galleries. That's completely what I think of as I think of Sex and the City, Charlotte working at the art galleries, and I think museums.
Exactly.
So what does accessibility in the art world mean to you guys beyond price point?
We really are for art for every person. We really believe, and it's something we talk about day in and day out in all of our meetings, and how can we make art more accessible? One thing that we have always felt passionate about is having transparent pricing. So many other galleries you can go in, it'll say, inquire for pricing. Everything is so out in the open. We are completely transparent in pricing. We believe that art is for every person. And we really want, beyond just there being multiple price points, we just really believe that anyone can engage in this space and are really passionate about that.
Yeah. And geography. I think that's a big one. I think that's one of the things that set us apart. You would have to go to 100 galleries in 100 cities to get the selection that we can show you from your couch on your phone. Yeah. So I think that's really, really great. And I think too, that idea of knowledge and confidence is about accessibility. Like, we want to demystify a thing that's very intimidating to the average person.
Totally. Well, lastly, can you share a moment when you saw Saatchi art truly change an artist's life?
We have so many amazing stories and testimonies of artists accounting saying, gosh, like this, I was never able to get signed by a gallery, and now I'm selling thousands of artworks every day. One of our artists that's so beloved by us was saying, gosh, I just bought my third house, and I never thought that was possible. Artists that live in, countries that are challenging and difficult, like that they can't sell anywhere else. They're able to, support their families. And it's just the stories that come in every day. Artists just being so grateful is one of the most rewarding parts of my job. It's just great to feel like you're actually making like a real difference in these people's lives. Yeah.
And that's why everyone on our team, I think, does what we do.
Yeah, I think so.
That's so cool. I love that you said thousands of works, selling thousands of pieces a day is amazing. I can't imagine.
In a year, not in one year,
but still,
we would love it.
Thousands in a year is just like thousands in general. That's wild. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for doing this. I had so much fun getting to talk with you, and I hope everyone gets a chance to go and look at Saatchi art online.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
It was great meeting you.